My new catchphrase is, not my job. So I got turned down for a promotion recently. I was told that I get distracted too easily and don't focus on my job. I got told that I need to stop trying to run in to be a hero if I ever want to be considered for a promotion. I was told that I need to work as directed. So for context, I have been doing my boss's work for him. When things at work backed up, I will jump in to get things back in order quickly. My job has fairly specific jobs where we aren't supposed to change positions and where to work as directed. I've gone to help out those outside of my job repeatedly since being hired. My direct supervisor and manager loves it when I go to help out. Well, that all stopped now. I even had the big boss try to tell me to help out a section that's outside my job description. My new catchphrase is, not my job. I had the bosses tell me that I am to do as instructed. I instead go to the union and get paid an extra to work in a different section. This has been the new trend for the past couple months. And today it all hit ahead. They have only one person in receiving for a 4-man crew. I work outbound. They cannot force me to work receiving based on the contract. Now the bosses are working in there and grievances being filed. The bosses shave stopped working and receiving is completely backed up. I just had my manager come and beg me to help. I told him, not my job. I need to remain focused on my job and not try to be a hero. Work is ground to a halt and the steward is demanding triple rate for anyone moved to receiving since management decided to work. Let's see how this goes. Gonna call the cops over a toilet? Sure. Enjoy signing off that OT. So Florida passed the hitty bathroom law, saying people must use the correct bathroom as listed on their birth certificate. I'm non-binary, had some medical issues when I was young that were ignored by doctors and resulted in my reproductive organs and some intestine being removed. Then I paid to remove more stuff. BC, why not? Eliminate a cancer threat. But I'm not on HRT, just generally very androgynous looking now. I don't really care what pronouns people use for me, and my wife switches based on which is funniest at the moment. At work they told us they were enforcing the law strictly and staff wouldn't just be disciplined, they'd get the police called on them. Note, there is one gender-neutral bathroom in our building, in the admin offices. You have to be buzzed in. Once you leave the office, you have to call a facilities person to let you in and security has to watch you. They're very big on enforcing a status around here. I got reported for using the wrong restroom, despite that it does conform with the gender on my birth certificate. I don't really mind which restroom I use, and in the past used whatever was available. BC, I have IBS and use the bathroom frequently due to aforementioned surgery. This just goes to show how upped up this law is and how it's going to discriminate entirely on appearance. I was told I was reported, and I pointed out I was following the law. Didn't get in any trouble. But he said, well, I need to be mindful of what others perceive. Cue my compliance. I've exclusively started using the admin restroom, wasting multiple people's times. I press the buzzer and make someone let me in. I have already lodged a complaint about the time it took someone to answer, and how withholding access to a bathroom could be an OSHA violation. I make sure to go after admin hours so security and facilities have to come up and report it, and I plan to complain anytime I wait more than 5 minutes for them to arrive. When we close and I'm on the floor, I say that I can't check and clear any off the restrooms, so the manager on duty has to find another person and stop their closing duties to do the other, because I helpfully remind them they can't check both or we have to call the police on them. Many of my coworkers are enjoying this and are supportive in doing the same at close. It helps that we are now getting 15-minute overtime due to closing. Our clock rounds to the nearest 15, and it applies to everyone in the building, so approximately 20 people worth of overtime a day. It adds up. After confronting me on why I'm using their bathroom, a member of admin said that they're now looking into how they can change our existing bathrooms to gender neutral. I said great, but I'm still going to use this one until then. Some other coworkers said they're going to do the same. Still a hitty law, but with enough annoyance I may be able to at least change our district. Edit. BAU, some of this has come up a lot. If you're confused or angry or want to tell me, you're either a man or a woman, go in the right bathroom, please reread because your comprehension sucks. I did. And got reported because someone thinks I don't look the way I should to use said bathroom. You can look at my profile picture and see that I don't adhere to either gender stereotypes naturally. I did not pursue any action against the reporter, because if they reported me out of genuine concern then it's pointless and the problem is the law and establishment. And if they reported me because they're transphobic or malicious, then anything Ito won't change their mind. And to be honest, I don't care to gain a representative for witch hunting, just for being annoying. I love our facility guys and they seem to find it funny to break into admin offices. Security seems mostly annoyed that they have to stand and watch a hallway leading to locked offices instead of watching it on cameras from their booth. Hopefully we get gender-neutral bathrooms not just for staff but our patrons as well. My wife is amazing. You're so obsessed with how I dress that you're going to involve HR? Alright, let's get a supervisor involved and see how that goes for you. I work at a hospital that doubles as a research institution. Since I'm on the research side, I have to involve lots of other departments, and most people with whom I work with are very chill and understand that I have to beseech them for things to do my job. I'm one of those, she can go 100 hectares on a single tank of kerosene, type of people, and I'm very on top of things, for which my coworkers value me. However, the one place where that camaraderie breaks down is with some of the nurses who work in my specific clinic, focusing on one particular disease. Honestly, I've done a good job making most of the nurses like me. I bring them homemade treats sometimes, and I'm always extra friendly and approbative with them. Some of them have their days, regardless, and I put up with them. Right after I first started working in that specific clinic, unfortunately, one nurse in particular, let's call her Bitchel, had decided that I was on her blacklist. Bitchel hates doing work. She's like a kid playing Xbox when their parent asks them for help with groceries. She'll moan and groan, and if she helps at all, it's with an angsty indignation. I needed a series of blood tubes drawn in clinic for a patient one morning, instead of down-in phlebotomy. Protocol rules. More complicated and stupid than it's worth getting into here, and Bitchel was the only nurse available. She was extremely put off at my asking her to draw this protocol kit, despite my giving advance notice to clinic that this needed to be done. She clearly did not want to leave her computer, which was not open to anything work-related, but she begrudgingly went and drew the tubes. She wasn't necessarily profusely thanked by me, just for doing her AMN job. I came back down later to get a prescription signed for another patient, and a different nurse asked me what I'd done to upset Bitchel because she'd apparently been going off about me to anyone who would listen. I explained what had happened. The other nurse informed me that Bitchel was pissed at me, and also felt my outfit, a white medical coat, a modest blouse, work pants, and high-heel boots, was too provocative. What? I just decided to let it go and try to avoid Bitchel as much as possible. This did not work. I kept running into situations where the other nurses were busy seeing patients. I was forced to walk back into the nurse triage room, which is off-limits to patients, and ask Bitchel to draw 2 more of these blood kits in the next month. She was never happy to see me, and she was always wasting time on her work computer. When I entered the room, maybe 2 or 3 days after that last kit draw, my supervisor called me in her office to discuss my presentation. She very nicely, and with pity in her voice, told me she received a report about my dress habits in patient-facing spaces. She said she personally hadn't noticed anything, no hit, but was obligated to discuss this with me anyhow. I assured her I had no idea what she was talking about. I thought about confronting Bitchel, but decided not to because, you know, loose cannon and whatnot. After a brief reminder of the dress code, I figured that at least it was over. It was not over. 2 weeks later, and I hadn't even asked anyone to draw any kits in the interim, a formal report was filed against me for my conduct in clinic. This went to the hospital and then my supervisor who, even after reading the report, seemed totally clueless about what it could mean. I explained what had been happening with Bitchel, but then my supervisor told me a second person had reported this as well, on the same day as who was obviously Bitchel. This time, it was a patient. The patient had reported that I was dressing improperly for a patient-facing environment. Whoa. I asserted that I wasn't, but I was nonetheless put on probation, which meant that my supervisor, against her will, now had to come with me when I saw patients in clinic for the foreseeable future, and a nurse manager would have to accompany both of us when she was free since I was dressing provocatively in patient-facing spaces and that was her domain. But as you can likely guess from her browsing habits, Bitchel was not the sort of person who needed more supervisors in her area. Cue malicious compliance. Fine, you want to punish me and force me to work in the eyesight of the supervisors? Alright, let's get some supervisors. Down here as quickly as possible. My next in-clinic patient came in 2 days, and it was one of those stupid timed in-clinic protocol kit visits, which meant I was forced to ask one of the nurses to draw the patient's blood. I informed my supervisor and we set off down for clinic. The nurse manager was in that day, so she accompanied the 2 of us. We all went back into the triage room so that I could ask for help with the blood draw. Bitchel and one other nurse were there. What we saw upon entering was the other nurse entering vital signs for a patient into our health database, and Bitchel sitting at her desk with an online clothing retailer open on one monitor, and Facebook on the other. I asked for Bitchel's help drawing the kit, and she sighed heavily and spun around, to see 2 higher-ups looking on with disdain at her work computer. In embarrassment, she swiveled back and closed those 2 tabs, which revealed, "You can't make this stuff up," a website for marital aids that had been open in another tab, about which Bitchel had clearly forgotten until now. I just smiled and handed her the bag like nothing had happened. In the hall, my supervisor and the nurse manager were talking about Bitchel's display just now. Apparently, she had previously been warned about goofing off at work. The nurse manager told the supervisor that she was going to check all of Bitchel's work computer activity, which I actually didn't know any supervisor could readily access. What followed was so incredibly beautiful that I hope it made the ending of this long post worth waiting for. According to the nurse who'd initially asked me what I had done to upset Bitchel, her activity was searched. She was revealed to have been spending hours upon hours every day browsing the web, shopping, and using social media. Since Shah had been previously warned about this behavior, she was given a formal write-up, but this was just the beginning. The day after the 3 of us went down to clinic, my supervisor called me in her office again. She told me that Bitchel had fabricated the patient complaint about me and posted it from her work computer. How did they learn this? Oh, that'd be because she saved a draft of the message that reported me to the hospital, and she'd accessed the patient complaint comment webpage the same day. My supervisor sincerely apologized for the hassle and told me I was no longer on probation. As for Bitchel, apparently fearing the worst, she put her 2 weeks' notice in the same day after getting wind that she was in some far more serious trouble. For reasons I will never understand as long as I live, the hospital chose to let her quit after 2 weeks instead of firing her on the spot. Maybe they knew what a nightmare she was and we were comfortable letting her quit on her own accord. It's not as though she was due to glean any glowing references from this experience. Maybe they just wanted some extra work. Our clinic was very short-staffed for nurses at the time. In any case, they chose not to fire her and let her quit on her own. On Bitchel's last day, I ventured down to the triage room to retrieve some outside records from their printer. When I entered, Bitchel was alone and browsing Glassdoor. I unbuttoned my white coat and told her, "Hey, good luck with your next job. I hope the employees are less provocative." She slowly spun around with a scowl on her face. Then I lifted my dress up to my neck, flashed her my barrettes, and walked out, and I never saw Bitchel again. TLDR setup. I run drug trials at a research hospital. A clinic nurse decided she hated me because I made her do her job and, she claimed, dressed provocatively. She made a formal report against me, and then a patient one surfaced. I was put on probation and made to see all patients with supervisors. TLDR resolution, malicious compliance. I brought supervisors down as quickly as possible. Said supervisors found out the nurse had been spending many hours a day on non-work-related websites, and THE patient report against me turned out to have been fabricated by the same nurse. She quit in disgrace, and on her last day, I gave her a nice parting gift.